Right, I'll start now. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Jonathan Elder, and I work with a company called Square 2 Marketing. We're one of the leading HubSpot partners in the world. And I don't know, I'm just interested if anybody's heard of HubSpot, or anybody knows about HubSpot. It's an inbound marketing software technology. Okay, so I've got some people on me. And Square 2 Marketing have, the two founders of Square 2 Marketing have been prominent authors, and they've got a methodology that works with HubSpot that they call reality marketing. And they've written a book about reality marketing, and I'll refer to another one, is Fire Your Sales Team Today, which is a bit of a provocative title, but it was one of their other books. And I've got some feedback forms here that I'm interested in feedback, so if anybody wants to give me any feedback on this talk and have the opportunity to get the slides and to get one of the books, then I'm happy to have that. So if I can just put the feedback forms here for after the talk. Okay, so I'm a marketing strategist with Square 2 Marketing, and I've got about 25 years experience of sales and marketing across the board. And I look forward to sharing with you the methodology, the reality marketing methodology that Square 2 Marketing have developed over the next 20 minutes. So my goal is to push you, or to help you push your organizations out of their comfort zone. You may need to think a little bit differently about your sales and marketing, and hopefully you'll get some nuggets from this presentation that you'll be able to take away and enhance the value of your marketing to your company. So everybody's got challenges with their sales and marketing, and Square 2 Marketing do things a little bit differently. Okay, we want to move people out of their comfort zone because generally they're at a certain revenue level and they want to get to a higher revenue level. And this means that you've got to do things differently. So by definition, you've got to move out of your comfort zone, and using the new technologies that we have available for ourselves with the digital marketing, that is also very new to an awful lot of people. So I'm apologising in advance for moving people out of their comfort zone, but not really. That's the exact goal of this talk this afternoon. So the first thing we want to talk about is the dramatic shift in our understanding of buyer behaviour. I was with a company, a prospective client in Surrey just a couple of weeks ago, and I'd asked the managing director, the owner, about his marketing and how he did it. And he said, well, pretty much we do marketing pretty much the same way as my granddad did it 75 years ago. And I thought, well, that's probably all right, or would have been all right about 10 years ago. But things have moved on so dramatically over the last 10 years that he's now got to think about things very differently. So if we can just think about all the things that have happened in the last 10 years, in that we've got a totally new breed of technology. We've got iPhones, we've got social media, we've got Facebook, and all the Web 2.0 technologies allow us to do our marketing in a very different way. And things really have moved on in terms of buyer behaviour and how we can go about interacting with them. So before we get started on any marketing campaign, I want to introduce a phrase to you that often gets missed out when thinking about digital marketing campaigns, and that is strategy before tactics. It's easy to say, but it's very difficult to stick to, and I'd want to help you have a methodology to be able to do that. So a lot of people jump right in with the tactical things before they think about strategies. And if I can tell you, virtually every day when talking with prospective clients on calls, they say, can you build me a website? Well, I say, absolutely, I can build you a website, but what do you want to say on it? Because it's the strategy or the voice of the customer that's far more important than actually what the website looks like. So I'd like to take you through 4 essential questions to get you thinking about strategy before tactics. So the first is, who is your target market? Again, a very straightforward, very simple question. but often things start to go wrong here. So if we were selling a service to businesses and I asked you the question, who's your target market, you might very well say small business owners. But I think you really need to start to qualify that. And I'd push you to go a little bit further. And the real answer might be small business owners, say in the southwest region of the UK, they 40 employee companies, say, who haven't got any health benefit scheme. Now, the key to understanding your target market is to be as narrow as you possibly can be. So a good friend of mine said that the energy to light a light bulb, to light a room, could be refocused into a laser, and that energy would be used to cut steel. Now then, we want to laser in on our target market, and that way we have a much greater chance of success. So once we understand the target market, then we've got to understand what are the pains and problems that they have. So how many times have you gone to a company's website, and on that website you'll see a picture of their building, their 3,400 square foot facility. You'll see the delivery vans parked in a half-moon shape outside, and you see the employees waving. Well, that's because it's an awful lot easier to talk about yourself. It's an awful lot easier to talk about your business rather than getting in the shoes of your prospective clients and to try and understand what problems they have and how you might solve their problems. So, how do you go about understanding the pains and the problems of your prospective customers? Well, usually they say it in the very first call that the salespeople will take. And it may be that they say something like this: I've got a new project, an Oracle project, and I've got to integrate my Oracle database with my Salesforce program. And the pains within that would be maybe we don't have any internal resources to integrate the project, or we only have a 3-person IT team and we don't have the extra bandwidth, or we don't have the expertise to tackle a new project. You know, those are the pains, and we've got to identify those. So the third step, once you've got to that point, is then relatively easy, and it's how you solve those pains. So if I said I can't link my Oracle database to my Salesforce, your company is likely to say, we've done that 1,000,000 times and we can figure it out. And why? Because that's the solution that your company will actually provide. Now, and here's the fourth point, and this is by far the most important point in the title of this whole presentation, is how can you position your solution as remarkable? And you have to position your company as remarkable, so people will say, wow, I've never heard of that before, or yeah, that's interesting. And that's the whole point, to make yourself so remarkable that people want to talk about you. The definition of being remarkable is the ability for somebody to remark about you. And using the example I've just given you of the Oracle software project, if I called you and then said, and you said to me, I know that that project that you've got is very important, and hitting the deadline of hooking up the Oracle database to the Salesforce software could be quite challenging. Well, our reverse timeline system lets us establish how you get that project done. Then we'd work backwards, establishing 6 milestones to make sure you get the project done. And every time we pass one of the milestones, we'll send you a text message to your cell phone to let you know that everything is on schedule. Now then, that is a little bit different to we'll figure it out, we've done it for 1,000,000 people. Now, and of course, we're just making this up, just to make a point about trying to make yourself remarkable. But if I rang round and I got that story from one of, say, 3 companies, I'd think, wow, well, those people have really got it. I haven't heard that before. You've invented something that's made you remarkable. And that would help us get a little bit further down the sales discussion. Now then, after this talk, you can go and look and see if you're remarkable. Now, do the scratch out drop-in test. Go to your competitor's website and scratch out the name of the competition and drop in your name. And if the websites look pretty much the same in terms of message, then you've got problems. And that's where being remarkable will really stand out. So I'd like to take you now through a 5-point checklist. And this is the reality marketing methodology that Square 2 Marketing have developed. And this will help us figure out how you could be really effective in marketing your company. So the first thing is that every single thing has to be quantifiable. Now then, if, in, as it were, old school terms, we went to the marketing manager of, say, Budweiser and asked her, can you tell me how many cases of beer you sold as a result of this billboard? Well, I think she'd be struggling. Now, with new technologies, possibly using a .com or a hashtag on here, you might be able to get some idea of the reaction to this specific billboard, but I don't think that would be particularly brilliant. But with digital marketing, we get the opportunity to be much, much more quantifiable. The second point is to be prospect-focused, and often people forget this. I alluded to it earlier when we talked about it's all about them and it's not about you. It's about your clients and the people who are actually going to be writing the checks. And so you've got to make sure that what you do is all about them. And I've got another test for you to do after this talk, and it's called the red and blue test. Now, this company here is a fertilizer company, and it's the sort of company that helps make your grass green. Now then, at the end of every season, they send out a letter. And one time, the owner said to us that the letter wasn't having the response that it should have, and it was asking people to resubscribe for the next season. Now then, the letter that they sent out was the letter on the left. Now, well, of course, the problem with it was all about them. And so what we did, we went through it and circled with red, and this is what I challenge you to do with your materials. Every time it talks about themselves, circle it in red. And every time it talks about the clients, or what you could do to help the clients, circle it in blue. And, of course, you can see there's an awful lot more red in the original letter than blue. And on the new letter, what we did was we rewrote it to talk about how the lawns would be the envy of the neighbourhood. And, of course, it would be golf course quality, and you could have the family picnic on there with the kids and the pets because it was actually so safe. But we made it all about them. Now, you can see on the new one, there's a lot more blue circles than on the old letter. And, in fact, the new letter outperformed the old one by 18-1. Now, the point here is we're not saying we're brilliant about marketing. What we've done is just taken something very simple and applied it. But you could apply this to a lot of your marketing materials. If you go away, look at your brochures, look at your website, and consider even the people doing telesales or the salespeople, and make sure that when they're talking, it's all about them. So the third point in this methodology is to be goal-oriented. A lot of people say, how big should our marketing budget be? How big should the program be? How much should I spend? Well, and spend on marketing. So we've got a very simple way of working that out. And basically, we need 3 bits of information. In this example here, we're talking about improving revenues, and that's the main goal, taking this firm from £11 million to £12 million. Now then, we need also the bit of information about the engagement size. How much do people spend on average for a year? And then we need to know about the close rate. And in this example, out of 10 people, how many people would go on to do business with the company? And in this case, it's about half. So you can figure out how much marketing they need from this information. So this is how you do it. basically you take the 2 million and divide it by the 25,000, and there you get, you need 80 clients. But because your close rate is half, then you need 160 people to quote for. And the bit of information you haven't got here is that how many quotes do you actually issue out of contacts that you get coming to you. And in this case, it's around 3 to 5 times. So you've got to attract a lot of people, more people than you need to do the quotes, by 3 to 5 times to your website. Now, you'll attract a lot of fish, say, to your website, but you want the little fish because you want the big fish, which are the people you're actually going to quote to. So you need 400 to 600 contacts. And that's how big you need to make your marketing plan for. And that's the way of working it out. Make sure that things are quantifiable. The fourth point is make sure your marketing has a high return on investment. Now then here, I've got an example of a company that do call center software, and they do a quarterly webinar. They usually get about 50 people to this webinar, and they get about 5 people to speak to their salespeople afterwards. And of that, the salespeople close 1. These are the sort of normal ratios that we find for our clients for performing webinars. And with an average engagement size for this company of around £200,000, that means over the course of the year, selling 1 a quarter, then they're making £800,000 revenue. And that's all on the cost of a webinar that is about £50 a month for the software, and the time and effort for the salespeople to actually put the webinar on. And it's relatively cheap. And you've got to just compare that with the cost of doing a trade show and staffing the trade show and those costs. And you'll see, obviously, that the technologies available to us now make us dramatically better in terms of return on investment. But again, this is important that we measure this. And the fifth point, which you wouldn't be surprised, is, because I've mentioned it already, is that we're going to make sure that our clients are remarkable. So your job as marketing professionals and maybe directors within your company are to find ways to position your company as so remarkable that people want to talk about you. And when people talk about you, then that's when you get referrals, that's when you get traffic to your website, and that doesn't cost anything. That is, I know, going to be well within your budget. So one of the ways to enhance the values of your company and your marketing programs is, in fact, to make everything remarkable. And that's the key point of this talk. And with that in mind, I want to tell you a story. And it's not my story. It's a story by a chap called Seth Godin, who is a popular business marketing guru and author. And this is called The Purple Cow. And basically, if we all decided to leave the hall today and go off in a bus into the country, soon we'd come across some cows. And somebody would say, hey, there's a cow. And the rest of us go, hey, yeah, no, so what? There's lots of cows. And soon the cows would blur together. And that's because there's nothing remarkable about a brown cow. But then you'd come around the bend, and all of a sudden the driver would stop, because he would see there's a purple cow. And what would we do? Well, I'd pick up the phone and talk to some friends. Other people might be texting. We'd take a few photographs. Soon it'd be found that the photographs are up on Facebook. Wow, we've found a purple cow. And then we'd put things on Pinterest, and things would go mad. And why? Because the cow is so remarkable. And people would come out and see it. And you'd have 500 people standing at the fence looking at the cow. And once again, this is happening because a purple cow is remarkable. And it's your job to generate interest in your company and make things different. And then you get lots of referrals, traffic to the website, and then obviously some introductions. Next I want to... Oh, wait a moment. Wait for it. Here's our purple cow. Right, I want to introduce you to 3-step advertising and the way we use this nowadays. As opposed to advertising as we used to, by advertising and hoping for the sale, we've now got a lot of new technology that can help us. And it wasn't easy before because we had to get response from clients without so many tools. We didn't have, or we did have rather, radio, we had TV, we had billboards, print, and maybe if we were really lucky, we'd get that little plane with the banner that goes across the beach. Well, maybe. And nowadays, we've got an awful lot more. We've got a billion ways of getting our message out. We've got the social media, we've got different technologies across the internet, and we've even got a lot more in the way of local TV to do it. But that means that we have to be an awful lot smarter. So we're still going to do the advertising, we're still going to do the PR, we're still going to ask for referrals, because those are the ways that people get to hear about your business. And don't get me wrong, we're still going to ask for the sale at the end of the process. But in between, there's an extra step in our marketing process now, and that is the prospect database. And all we want to do is to offer an awful lot of content and get people to ask for that content and to leave their contact information, and that is in the contact, that's what we put in the contact database. So a typical example for this would be a webinar. If you go to a website and download an access to a webinar, you might be asked to put in your email address. And what happens here is that people are volunteering their information to go into this marketing database, so we know that those people are already qualified, they're interested. Now then, don't you think that the response rate could be improved dramatically if we incentivized people? You might want to consider offering an iPad or something like that to improve the response rate. But that creates a problem, because then we'd attract an awful lot of people that would actually want the iPad and not actually be particularly interested in your service. So we want to make sure, the lesson there is to make sure that we are as targeted as possible, and we're trying to qualify our prospects as we go through this process. So we want to get people who qualify into this prospect database. Then things become quite easy, because all we have to do is market to them. It sort of cuts away the fat, and it leaves the right people, in effect, to put up their hands and said, I'm interested in your company and your service, and I want to hear a little bit more. So moving on, now I wanted to talk about the guided sales process. And Google did some research not very long ago and touted around that basically 9 out of 10 consumers will go to the vendor's website now before they make a significant purchase. Why? Well, so that we can conduct our own research, and we're not content with just getting told things from the vendor. We have to then go and verify that with our friends, Facebook, we ask on Twitter, and then we'll go to these review sites and get more information. So how has all this accumulated knowledge then changed buyer behavior? Well, because of all this research, when we're ready to make the purchase, we don't already know what we want, but we also know things like how much it's going to cost and what we're going to need to pay. So when we get to the vendor, we don't need the salesperson to sell to us. In fact, we don't need a sales guy at all. What we need is a sales guide. And they will help guide us through the sales process, but we don't need the salesperson at all. And to give you a further example, if you purchased a car recently, before you even step foot into the dealership, then, well, by the looks of that chap, I think you'd be put off immediately. But we all know the amount of research that we do in going into a purchase like a car. We'd go to car magazines, we'd read the reviews, and get a whole host of other opinion on this before we would go about it. Now that we've got a better understanding of the change in buyer behavior, including our preference to be asked and not sold to, and to be guided and not sold, how can this information now be used to your advantage? Well, the first step, as we talked about and in the book, we've got to fire the sales team. Well, actually, we don't really want to fire the sales team. We just want to rehire them as sales guides. Why? Because the consumer, or the buyer, would rather deal with the sales guide. And when we treat them in the way that they want to be treated, of course they'll be happier, they'll be more satisfied, and happier and more satisfied buyers will want to buy all the more. So typically now we're observing that companies and directors and people have got it wrong with regards to the mix of sales and marketing that they had before. And typically people still have the brunt of the sales being borne by the sales team. And I think it's time that we considered changing this, so moving things on from 75% sales resource and 25% marketing, and moving that over to 75% marketing and 25% sales. Now this is a radical change for quite a lot of companies, but this is beginning to move across. And some companies still want a lot of people beating the bushes, knocking down doors to get the sales. But this now, with the way marketing has gone, is just a little bit more effective. And if we're treating buyers that they were really the way they really want to be treated, then we're going to get more business as a result of it. So, moving on from that, how do we perform the right sort of marketing? Well, we've got a marketing sales funnel now. It's not just a sales funnel that you used to have for selling systems. We've got a marketing sales funnel. And each step here represents about 25% of the activity going on. All the activity is no longer just down at the bottom with the sales guys. The first step at the top of the sales funnel is to introduce your company. These are things like internet marketing, SEO, pay-per-click. They all get companies introduced to you. And when they get to the website, there might be 10,000 visitors at the website, then that's good. But really what we're interested in is the 200 that are going to convert from visitors to contacts through the website. We want those people to offer up their contact information because they're interested in doing business with us. Now then, how do we convert these people? And the terminology that we're using here is an NRO, and an NRO is a no-risk offer. And that means things like white papers, tip sheets, videos, all things like that, where people are glad, there's some value there, they're glad to exchange their email address for that form of content. Once we've got the email address, then we'd like to move them on a little bit further. And so we do a low-risk offer, or an LRO. And that's the sort of thing that would be a free consultation or a webinar or a workshop or something like that that's particularly appropriate to your company. Now then, the reason that the no-risk offer and not the low-risk offer is there is because if you're wanting to ask somebody for their email address and you've got a strong privacy policy, then really there's no risk in them giving you the email address. You're not going to spam them and they're not going to expose themselves and they're not going to have to speak to anybody. So that one is the no-risk offer. If they sit through the low-risk offer, then they're giving up part of themselves. They're giving some time. They're taking a little risk in getting closer to the company. But after they sit through a low-risk offer, then they're more likely to see how remarkable your company is. And then just think about it from a sales point of view, how happy your sales team will be that they've attracted somebody through this process who's read about you on the website, that has read the white paper, that's watched the videos, had a consultation, and heard about all the remarkable things. And then the sales process becomes an awful lot easier. And down the bottom, you've got an offer, and this is a direct business offer, so that's the fourth stage in the marketing sales funnel. The important point here is you're working people all the way through. And we call this a marketing machine. And people come in at the far left-hand side at point A, and that's where we first get their contact information. And all the way along the content is all the way along. Oops, have I gone too far? there we are, all the way along, the content that you're giving them is intended to build the trust and develop a relationship with the buyer as they go through the process. So it's our job to build a marketing program that continually builds the case as to why your company is the obvious choice to do business with. So it's our goal to move them to the point of Z throughout at the end of the marketing machine. And that's where basically we get the revenue and get the goal that we're after as marketing professionals. Finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about content. Content marketing is the buzz phrase for 2013. Why? Well, because the buyer behaviour has changed quite dramatically, and how buyers demand information off the internet has changed. Just like we explained earlier, with some of the examples that we're talking about, the car buying story. So all along the way, content is used to build the relationship and the trust between your company and the buyer. But we need to match up where consumers are, where buyers are in their buying stage with the content that's available to them. So when some people are surfing, they need public content, and that's content so they can find you, content that gets you found. And search engine optimization is a very strong element of this still. And no-risk offers are good for when the prospect comes to your site but is not ready to buy. And for those who are feeling like they want to get a little bit closer to the company, then that's where the low-risk offer comes in. So finally, when they're ready to buy, you need good sales content to support why your company is the obvious choice to do business with. So that's the end of the presentation. So Square 2 Marketing are happy to talk to people about marketing, about websites. I have got a no-risk offer and a low-risk offer for you, in the sense that I've got, I think they're somewhere around some forms to fill in if you'd like some content from the presentation, or if you'd like a book, the Fire Your Sales Team Today, or the Reality Marketing book. If you fill in the forms, then I will gladly get you some of that content. And equally, we're quite happy to do a 30-minute consultation around the marketing process and tell you a little bit more about the reality marketing process ourselves. And I'm happy to take any questions now. No questions? That's good, because I'm getting the signal from the back. Thank you very much indeed for your time.